Hi guys, welcome back for another video. Now today we are installing rear brakes. So I bought some just Brembo brakes from Euro Car Parts, as well as some pads. And I've also bought this stuff, which is brake lubricant. You should use this rather than cover grease. I've bought myself some of that. So as you can see, I've currently got my car jacked up. Ignore the fact that that's not on, it's fine. This one's on and this is the one I'm working on. I'll mess around with that one later. Anyway, first things first, crack off your nuts, raise your car up, and then because we're working on rear brakes, you need your handbrake down and put it into gear, and then just make sure your car's not rolling forwards. I've got some lumps of wood in front just in case to hold it a little bit more. So as you can see with my rear brakes, I have this problem going on. A lot of people tell me this is sliders. I've cleaned the slider out, I copper greased it, I still had this problem. So I think I've gone past the point of I've damaged the disc too much. So we're going to change all the discs, all the pads, and also re-grease the slider up with proper grease, and we'll go from there. So first things first, take your wheel off, 3 bolts and your locking wheel nut. Take that off and then we'll look at the brakes. Okay, so first things first, we're going to remove the slider pins, which are here. You need a 13mm, if you've got a brake shin spanner it will help, a 13mm spanner. Just use an 8mm socket just to get that off. That allows me to slide this around now, which gives me a lot more play to this whole kind of housing. So at this point I'm now just going to pry this off and then start to work on the actual caliper itself. I literally just slid this off. Brake pads came off with it, and they're my brake pads. So it's still got quite a bit of wear on them, but they're definitely done with. They're 100% done. So I'm just seeing if these have any identifying marks in terms of what one's got on the front and back. Can't see any, but we'll see. So I'm just going to leave them like that, just so I know that was the front one, that was the back one. So you can really see my disc now, how bad it is. But anyway, so this you need to keep safe. Make sure you know you're not kind of pulling on this brake line at all. So we're just going to hang that somewhere. I'm not sure where. We'll find a place to hang it. Okay, so the next step is to wind back this piston. Now you can buy a wind back tool, they're much simpler to use. I'm using this, which is from an angle grinder. It's the thing that you change the blades with. Basically you just want to pop it in there and turn it that way, so clockwise, and while doing that you want to be pushing inwards. Basically you're going to screw the piston back into the housing, so just do that as much as you can, get it in as far as you can, and work from there. So wind the piston back, so basically you can see the 2 boots, I'm going to call them boots, basically 2 rubber rings, basically in line now. So that's all good. You can, as you can see, my bonnet is now up. You can undo your brake reservoir and it will make it a bit easier to obviously push the brake fluid back through. But anyway, on to the next bolts. The next bolts are one here, 13mm, and one there, 13mm. So we're going to take those 2 off, and then this will come off, and then your brake disc itself will come off. So I just had to break out the big guns in order to get these rear bracket bolts off. But you can see that's quite loose now, and I'm going to undo that one. Then, like I said before, this will slide off and then your brake pad will slide off. Just be careful with how you're hanging this, so you don't want any tension on this brake line. Currently I'm just hanging it off of the handbrake line. So we're just going to remove this. So there's that. And we'll remove the rear pad. So as you can see, the back of it's pretty alright, but the front is just knackered. It's all pitted and yeah, it's just worn at a really bad rate. So that is the old one out. And in terms of slider pins, they are inside here. So you're going to pull basically this bit out, and there's your slider pins. Hopefully you can see that. So that's one slider pin. Obviously I'm going to put them here for now, but we're going to clean them all up, put new stuff on them. And there's your second slider pin. Right, so I'm going to clean these up, re-grease them with the Ceratec lube that I've bought, and then pop it all back together with the new brake pads. Let's just show you what I've done. Basically I've used a Q-tip or a earbud, or whatever you want to call them, and I've cleaned out these two holes. To remove the rubber boots, you literally it's just a slide over the top of them. So I'm just going to pop that one back on, or try and do it one-handed. There you go, it's as simple as that. So the wide bit goes onto the actual housing itself. I won't do the other one for now. And then I've cleaned up my slider pins, and I'm going to use Ceratec. I'm just going to coat this and then slide it into there, take it back out, then coat it again and then slide it back in, and it should be all good to go. That's all good, so that one's done. Do the second one. Once again, nice healthy coating. New brake pad. The thing about new brake pads is they come with like a coating to stop them from going rusty. So what you're going to need is some brake cleaner. So this just gets rid of all the stuff on there. Just going to give it a nice healthy coating, rub it all off. Same on the back side, and then we can slide it straight onto that.
Yeah, we're stuck on the back right, so let's just flip it over. You see at this point, you really don't want to kind of cross-contaminate, try to keep fingers off the actual disc. Well, the part's going to be breaking anyway.
As you can see, basically I'm just going to slide this back onto there, like that. There you go, new disc is on, I've cleaned it. I'm just going to give it a once over just because I can see a little bit here. I'm just going to give it a once over while it's on. To build the caliper back up, just going to make sure that's out of the way, and then basically we're going to slide this into there, behind there, and you're going to line it up with those holes. So those holes there, line up with those holes there. Hopefully you guys can kind of see. This is kind of a bad angle. It just slides into here like that. And then I'm going to do the bolts up, which are these ones. So the new brake pad is on. I'm now going to put the brake disc is on. I'm now going to put the brake pads on. So it's important that this spring is kind of level as it is there. I'm just going to slide it into the carrier itself. See, this will be much easier with two hands. There we go, so that's one. Right, that's number 2. So that's how you want it. And then we're going to offer it up from there. So we're also going to copper grease, and I mean like the smallest amount, just a tiny bit here, tiny bit, a little dollop in the middle because that's where the piston's going to be pulling. So we're going to do a dollop here, and on the back, a dollop in the middle for where the piston pushes. Okay, so there's a tiny bit here, dollop here, and on the back, dollop in the middle, because otherwise you end up with this. Alright, so that would be that one. So we want the copper grease in those 2 worn locations. Just to show you what I've done so far, I've put a tiny bit, if you can see that, tiny bit on there. Tiny bit on here. Obviously I'm not touching the brake pad. I'm going to turn it over, and obviously this is my front one. I'm going to put, so I've got quite a bit on my finger at the minute, but oh, that's probably too much, but we'll work with it. So I'm going to put a little bit there, put a tiny bit more on. There we go, a little bit there, a little bit there, and then we're going to pop it back in to the brake caliper. Then we're going to do the same with the other one. So I'm just going to remove that now. So same with this one, so just the tiniest amount, just on that bit, tiny amount on there. Okay, and then obviously this one's the centre. Just going to give it a nice little helping in the middle. That should stop any brake squeal. Alright, so we're going to slide that one back in. And at this point, we now need to offer the caliper back up. So hopefully you guys can see this. Basically we're going to just slide the caliper back over the top. Obviously if you've wound back your piston enough, this will be easy, which it is. So it goes straight back on like that. And then we just need, you do get supplied 2 new bolts actually, so in the Brembo pack you get supplied new bolts for this, so we're going to use those. A little bit hard to open one-handed, not going to lie. I'm just going to slide the new bolts into there and just try and do it up just so it holds it in place. It can be a bit fiddly finding where exactly you need to do it up. I think I found that one. cool. I'm just going to remove my gloves because obviously I've got lube all over them, and then I'm going to do up those 2 bolts, which I'll show you now. So just to show you what I've done, reseated it. Obviously you can see where my lube is there. Make sure they're pushed in properly, but we're now going to drop those 2 shiny new bolts. Just finished the second side, or pretty much anyway. Remember, you got to put this back in. So that's your 10mm nut. So that goes back into there. And then just kind of pump the pedal and work the handbrake and just make sure, because obviously at the minute without the handbrake on, it should spin freely. But the moment you put the handbrake on, it should clamp, feel good, and then release the handbrake again. Make sure you can then move the disc once again. Alright, so anyway, we're going to put this back on, put the wheel back on, go for a test drive, and then we'll leave it there. So, super simple to do, really easy. Just remember, make sure you lube the sliders, which are inside here. Also the piston, if you are using an angle grinder tool like I am, you can, if you push down and then clockwise it, as you're pushing down into it, you'll have a much easier time getting the piston back in. Otherwise, just buy the correct tool for it, and it's like a clamp that rotates. I'd highly recommend it. Anyway, I hope that helps, guys. Remember to like, favorite, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. But once again, all I need to do, pop the wheel back on and go for a test drive. So thank you all for watching. If you need any help, just leave me a comment. I'll see you guys next time.